hope it's not seeming to go to Facebook, but you know what? That's all right. Let's see if it happens everywhere else. Let me get us live on Instagram. Come on. All right, Instagram's working, so that's good. Hello, everyone. Let's see if YouTube is working. Who knows? Hopefully. I can't tell. It should be. Hello, everyone. Hi, Bianca. Look at that baby. Oh, my goodness. Look at all that hair.
I know so much.
Oh, my gosh. She's so beautiful. If you guys are just joining me today, one of my students, Bianca, is joining us, and she is going to share her birth story and her journey with us. And if you guys aren't following her on Instagram, I've got her tagged in my stories, but she is so much fun. And we've had such a fun time getting to know you, Bianca. So I'd love if you just tell everyone like a little bit about you, about your journey.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, my Instagram has gone through a lot of different stages. So if you scroll very far back, you'll see pictures and videos of me doing bodybuilding competitions, doing makeup, doing skincare, mom stuff. So it's a whole smorgasbord of all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so a little bit about me. I am 31. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Actually just moved here from northern Maine almost 2 years ago now. So my husband and I live here. He's a teacher. We have a 4-year-old who will be 5 in April, and then this sweet little girl right here who was just born in January. What else do you want to know? You want me to share like my whole story, like my whole birth story, or how do you want to do this? Oh, I can't hear you, Trish.
I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I'm going to take these out. I think it's something to do with the AirPods.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, now I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, it's just a little quieter. Okay.
I'm putting my other microphone on. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear
Yeah.
it.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening, but we're having like massive technical difficulties. So yeah, so I don't know if I asked you this on the podcast, but how did you find me?
I found you on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So after I had my first son, you know how it is when you have a baby, you like start seeing more baby content on your Instagram, like the algorithm knows.
Yeah.
So I actually came across like one of your videos, and I just thought it was so helpful. And I thought like, okay, you know, this is a good page to follow if I ever do plan to have another baby, because I knew that I wanted things to go differently the next time around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so tell us about that. Like what about the first one that you wanted to be different?
So the first one, like, it wasn't horrible. Like, I don't want to act like it was this horrible experience. There was just things that now that I look back, I feel like things were just being done to me, and there was no informed consent. You know, it was like, okay, we're going to come break your water now. Or, all right, we're going to check how dilated you are. Like, nobody was asking me anything. They were just kind of doing things to me. And then I had taken some birth classes prior, and I'd read Ina May's
Guide to Childbirth.
I read that.
I love that book.
I read Mindful Birthing, and like I felt really prepared, and I was so like ready to go in and have just like a very calm, natural birth, like minimal interventions. And immediately that like went out the window when they were like, oh, your amniotic fluid is low, so we're going to induce you.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, well, you know, I can still, minus Pitocin, I can still try to have like the natural birth that I want. But it was just, like I said, there was just so many things that were happening. They were just like, we're going to do this. Nobody was asking me. Nobody was informing me of anything. They were just kind of doing what they wanted to do. And I don't feel like they were being mean, or I just feel like they're indoctrinated.
That's what they're used to doing.
Right, exactly. Like that is just routine for them, which is fine. But now that I know better, I can do better, right? So the worst part of that birth, honestly, because I was doing fine through the contractions, even with the Pitocin, like they were intense contractions, but I was able to breathe through them. I was in a rhythm. I was able to move around, not as much because I had all the wires, right?
Yeah.
The baby monitor and the IV and all of that. So I wasn't able to move around as much as I would have liked, but I was still moving around. Felt like I was in a good rhythm. And then, they came in, they're like, you look like you feel like you're pushing. Let's check how dilated you are. And I said, okay. So I got back on the bed and they had me on my back to check how dilated I was. And I was basically crowning, like they could see the baby's hair at that point. So they just were like, it was funny because my husband's like, what's that? They said, that's your baby's hair.
Nice.
So I was fully dilated and ready to push, but I was on my back because they had just checked me. And I said, okay, hold on, I don't want to be on my back. And like, nobody listened to anything I said. I said, let me get on all fours, or at least let me like sit up and squat a little bit. And nobody was listening to me. They're like, they were acting like it was an emergency. Like I needed to push right then and there, but there was no emergency. Like his heart rate was fine. Like there was nothing that was stopped.
They just wanted you to push.
They just wanted me to push right then and there. And, now that I know, and I told my husband after the fact, I said, next time, like if we have another child, if I ask for something, I don't care what anyone says, you make it happen.
Yeah, that is your job.
And he was on board. He was like, yes,
yeah,
100%, like you will be doing that again. And the reason why it was so painful to be pushing on my back was because he was face up. My son was coming out face up. So his head was kind of like hitting my tailbone every time I'd have that contraction.
Which is so hard. I've been there with Lainey. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's a hell.
And then to make things worse, because I was flat on my back, he had a shoulder dystocia.
Yeah, which wouldn't have happened had you not been flat on your back. Which, let me just interrupt you for a second. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So for those of you guys listening, shoulder dystocias are very scary. However, what she is referring to, let me show you guys. I'm just going to show you guys what she's talking about, right? Now, I wish I had my hot pink ball because it works better. But if your baby is coming in the way it should, right, they're going to move into the pelvis, move around, and come out. When they come in face up, this bony part of the back of the head is going down your spine. And you can see going in there, it's like all those things that don't fit, where if they come in this way, fits great.
Right.
I had this with Lainey too. She always tells me she didn't want to come out looking at my butthole. That's why. She's 19, y'all. Anyway, so if your baby is like that and they've come into the pelvis this way, the best way to help them is to get into a gravity assisted position. So you can see if you're flat on your back, it's like this. But if you get into a gravity position, you've opened up all that space. So when we just keep you on your back with your legs in the stirrups, your feet in the pad or whatever, that is convenient for the doctor. Funny enough, the last resort to help that is called the Gaskin's maneuver, right? Ina Gaskin. And you flip them on their hands and knees. Like, why in the world do we not just use positions that work from the get-go to prevent that, right? So sorry, I just had to, because I've gotten so many moms. My classes are open for enrollment right now, and so we get a lot of DM questions. So many moms asking me about shoulder dystocia.
So your Instagram is actually where I learned that my son probably didn't have a true shoulder dystocia.
Well, he might have had one, but it wasn't because
like an emergent one. Like had they let me turn over onto my hands and knees, I probably could have pushed him out.
Which you wanted to do in the first place.
Which I wanted to do in the first place. Yep. So,
why not listen to mom's instinct? Like, it's your body.
My body was like, I couldn't, once I was pushing, I could not get into a rhythm of breathing again. And I felt like I was hyperventilating, like in between contractions, I couldn't rest because I was just, the back labor was so intense. Yeah. And I just felt like totally out of the whole rhythm that I had been in all day. Like it was just like an out of body experience and not in a good way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt leaving mine too, my first birth, because it just felt like it happened to me.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't a part of it.
Yeah.
So let's go into this one. So you find us.
Yeah. So I've been following you since basically 2020. And
Which
then
is from the beginning.
I know it's crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had my first son in 2020.
So you've seen my account evolve a lot.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had been following you, and then once I got pregnant, I knew I wanted to take another birth course, not at the hospital, but like one from someone online,
Yeah.
someone that knew more.
Yeah.
And
Who's not policy and procedural.
well, that's what I liked about yours was you're like, I'm a nurse, and here's why I want to educate moms because you see it happen, and you can't say
Yeah.
anything oftentimes because you have to follow rules too, but
Yeah.
we can say no.
Yeah. At bedside, I have to follow the doctor's orders until you refuse. Once you refuse, that trumps the doctor.
Right, exactly. So I love
If you don't know to, then
well, exactly. Like there's certain things that I just didn't know. And that's something I got from your birth course was just like knowing my options because I didn't know that I could decline an IV. I didn't know I could get just like a saline lock if needed.
yeah.
Like, I didn't know any of these things. I just thought all of those things had to happen.
And that's such a simple way to make you feel like you're just having a baby, not an operation or something, Yeah.
Honestly, the IV is like the worst part for me.
Yeah. I hate, oh my God, I've had all unmedicated and the IV has been the worst part for me too.
Yeah, it's the worst.
And then it's so sore afterwards.
Yes, I was bruised.
Yep, me too. Did they do it right here?
The first time I had them do it in my arm because I wanted to be able to I didn't want it to be like in an area that would bother me, but they did it too high up. So anytime I bent my arm, it was like stabbing. And then this time they did it like on the top part of my arm right here, which was actually perfect.
That's the best place. That or here, one of those. Yeah.
As long as you have like a vein that they can get into, like they're happy to do it there. So that's where I got it this time, and I just had a saline lock. And I got a saline lock because I was GBS positive, so I needed the antibiotics. But I didn't need to have like any continuous IV fluids or anything like that.
Yeah.
They gave me my antibiotic with a syringe actually, so I wasn't connected to anything.
That's awesome. Did that burn though? Did they do it really slow?
It didn't burn. They did a little bit of saline first, and then they did the antibiotic. And honestly, I was already in transition at that point.
You don't know if it burned.
They waited so long. I was in triage forever, and then antibiotic. They only gave it to me like an hour and a half before I pushed her out, so it didn't work anyway. They were like, we still have to monitor the baby for 48 hours because the antibiotic wasn't administered early enough.
Yeah. Oops. Well, that's all right. Rather you labor at home, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was perfect. I'm glad that it went so quickly. It was just a much more calm and peaceful experience.
And how did you feel about, I know you loved the classes, but also the labor bat signal. So how did that feel for you?
Yeah, that was nice because I felt like I just had like a sounding board through like those last couple of weeks of pregnancy where I was like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. I'm having false labor all night, every night. And then I wake up with no more contractions.
Prodromal labor sucks. It's the devil. I always say it's the devil.
It was so bad, but you guys were awesome and just keeping me like positive and grounded. Like, yeah, it was nice to have you guys. And then just like ask questions. Like, is this
Let me see if I can show this. Hold on. There you go. This is your labor bat signal. Yes. I think it's baby time. I've been having contractions all afternoon. I did the mile circuit from 2 to 3:30, blah, blah, blah. And the next one is I'm going to head in now. And it's literally 3 minutes later.
It's so funny. I was like, I got out of the shower and thought they had slowed down, but they hadn't. So I was like,
yeah. No, the shower is the true test of real labor. I swear that you may have heard me tell the story of my friend Beth, who wanted me to be her doula. And I was going to go to her house and help her labor at home longer. This is way before I started Labor Nurse Mama. And so she called me and I went over and I checked her. She was 5 centimeters. And I was like, oh shit, bulging bag of water. So I was like, I called her midwife because she's my friend and I worked with her. And I was like, Amy, she is 5 centimeters bulging bag. She's like, well, she's been 5 centimeters bulging bag. You know, you might want to head in sooner. So I went and put pads in my car because I was going to drive them. And she took a shower. And then when she came out, she was like, did it. And I was like, are you pushing? Get in the bed. And we had Isaac at home.
Crazy.
That was fun. And everybody thought I was like a hippie home birth midwife, but that was not the plan. Not that I mind, because you know I'm like super crunchy.
Huh? You said I did not sign up for this.
It was very interesting. And then even more interesting when we got to the hospital, because we went to the hospital, he was super bruised and we couldn't tell. Like, anyway, we were freaking out. I was not prepared for that. And we go to the hospital, and the nurses, none of them knew me and knew that I was a labor nurse. They just thought that I just did a random birth for her. And they were so rude to me. And I was like, listen, I looked at her placenta. It didn't look right. I think you guys need to check her out. They were like, oh, okay. And anyway, she ended up having to go back like 3 days later for a DNC because there was still placenta inside of her. And I didn't know what, but I knew something didn't look right. But, you know, it's messy, so it's hard to tell. Yeah. But the resident went over and like picked up the placenta and was like examining it and totally dismissed me. And I was like, what an ass. Yeah. Wow. But I think they just thought I was some random person who decided I was going to deliver her baby at home, but that was not the plan.
Right.
My knees were shaking. Was not good. Anyway, okay, so she sends us this at 6:35. She thinks it's baby time. 6:38, it's for sure baby time. What happens after that?
So after that, oh gosh, I don't know. Had I showered at that point? I think I was gonna get into the shower.
Let's see. It says, oh wait, I have it pulled up over here. Let me see what it says. So you had a sweep. You had a sweep that morning, right?
Yeah, I had a membrane sweep at 11.
And I remember they wanted you to go in immediately if your water broke. And I was like,
My water didn't break until I was pushing.
So it says that right after that, you said they slowed down now that I'm sitting in the car. So you left right then. So if you took a shower at home, you already did that.
Okay, yeah. So after I had messaged you, we just like cleaned up the house, made sure everything was in order, and then brought my son over to our friend's place. And that we arrived at the hospital at like 8:15. I remember that. And I was in triage for a while. Like that was the only part where I was like confined to a bed for a little while because they had me strapped up to like the
Which for those of y'all listening, you can stand next to the triage bed. I don't care what they say.
Well, I did tell them. I said I'm probably gonna stand up because my contractions were like every 3 to 5 minutes at that point. So I was like, I'm gonna stand up if that's okay. And she's like, well, it'll probably fall down, but it's okay. I'll come in and fix it.
Okay. Well, so that's good. At least she said that's okay.
Then another nurse kept coming in, like mad at me that it was falling. But even when I was sitting in the bed.
I'm sorry. So you have to actually do something? You have to adjust the monitor? Like, wow.
So sorry.
Yeah.
Your job.
Yeah, I hate that you have to get up from the desk, but I'll just lay here in miserable pain and not cope. Yeah.
Sitting is like the worst for me. Like
me too.
So I sat for a little while so they could get like, at least some.
Yeah.
But even so, like my belly was so like perfectly round that every time I'd have a contraction, it would slide anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what?
I always call it a slippery slope. Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna stand up and whatever. Like we can deal with it.
Yeah.
So after they got enough, they had done that for long enough. I guess they were able to take it off, and I went to the bathroom and I just kind of labored on the toilet for a long time. Still haven't seen the midwife at this point. She came in at like 9:30 and finally checked me, and I was like 5, almost 6 centimeters. She said 5, but she was stingy. So
yeah, like, so it was tight. Yeah, it was loose, a loose 5.
Right. So that was at like 9:30, 9:45 ish, and she was wonderful. Like, she went over my birth plan before coming in, and she was like totally on board with everything. The only thing she was like a little concerned about was the shoulder dystocia, but I explained to her, like, I'm going to be pushing on my knees already, so we don't have to worry about this. She's like, okay, fine. Let's just do it. So yeah, she was perfectly fine. She went over my whole thing. I was concerned because I'm in a city and I never know what midwife I'm going to see, right? So like I went in knowing who was going to be delivering my baby and concerned, like, okay, are they going to like follow my plan? But luckily the hospital that I delivered at, the midwives like run that unit. They run the labor and delivery.
Oh, I love it.
There's like barely any, like I didn't even see an OB while I was there.
I love that.
So she was great. They got me to my labor and delivery room around like 10-ish. And at that point, like my contractions were every 3 minutes. Before we had left triage, I got like the shakes a little bit. And I was like, oh gosh, like I'm going to have this baby in this room if they don't move me soon.
Yeah.
So I get to my labor and delivery room, and I must have hit transition like immediately when I was in there because I felt the urge to throw up. And that was the same thing with when I was having Jamal. Like right before I hit transition, I threw up. So that happened, and then I labored some more on the toilet because it was just comfortable to sit there, which sounds funny, but it's just
no, it really is because it relaxes your pelvic floor.
Yeah, so it was just comfortable to sit there. So I labored a lot on the toilet, and then I asked, like, can I get in the bath? Like, I wanted to like help relax my body because I felt like I was getting a little bit tense. And I also didn't want, like, I did kind of feel like the urge to push, but I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't want them like forcing me to get on the bed
after last time.
So I was like, can I get in the bath? And they're like, sure. So they set that up. My labor nurse got me some essential oils. Like, we turned out the lights. I had my music playing. And up until this point, like, it's intense, but I don't feel out of control. I just felt like I was in a good rhythm, you know?
Yeah.
So the bath was just like, it was instantly relaxed me again. Felt amazing. And I labored in there. I'm not really sure how long, but the whole time I was in labor and delivery in that room for 2 hours, basically. So
in the triage or the labor and delivery?
I was in triage from 8 to like 9:45, 8:15 to 9:45. And then I went into my labor and delivery room, and she was born at midnight.
Wow.
Like 10 to midnight, I was in the labor and delivery room.
I love it.
So it was really quick. So like this whole story, I don't know like how long each thing lasted, but I know that it was quick.
I think I have, let me see. I have another one here. Let's see if we can get it there. There we go. 8 pounds, 1 ounce, right? I can't read it, but I believe
1 ounce.
Yeah, I love it. So that little picture is so precious. And your son had that much hair too, right?
Yeah, they both had a lot of hair. Yep.
I love it. I've got that one too. Hold on.
She was bigger. Oh, yeah?
This one right here, these two are my two favorites. The other one, she's like sunbathing like a diva.
Yeah, she was a little jaundiced, so we lay her on the sun.
Yeah, she looks like she's a little diva. But what's so funny is she doesn't look as chunky as she does in this one.
I know, right?
I love the rolls. Oh my gosh. I wish my son and his fiance are getting married in this year in the fall, and I cannot wait. I need a grandbaby. I have one. He's 7, but he's not a chunky little roll anymore. Yeah, I love it. So tell me, like, what did you love most about this birth?
I just loved how like in control I felt. Like my midwife was there literally just to catch the baby. Like that was it. Like nobody. So let me go back to being in the bathtub because we're quick. And so when I was pushing, and I'll kind of I'll land.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
So yeah, I labored in the bathtub for a little bit, and I got like a really strong contraction, and I could feel her head.
Such an amazing feeling.
I'm like, she's coming right now. And
this time they listened to you.
This time they listened. So I said, she's coming right now. And Derek, my husband, he pulled like the emergency cord in the bathroom because he didn't know what to do. He's like, I'm not.
Oh, it was just you two.
It was just us two. No one was in there. Us. no one was in the room. I don't think they realized like how quickly I was progressing because I was so
I
calm.
don't even understand. Well, yeah, so that is one core thing my students a lot will say to me because the nurses can't believe how calm you guys are, which is why most of the time they're like, "Oh, she's not in labor."
Yeah. Yeah. And like I didn't want any, like I let them check my cervix when I arrived in triage, but after that, like that was part of my birth plan. Like I don't want any more. Like
Yeah,
when it's time for me to push, we'll know.
yeah, and
So
boy, did you.
so they didn't, no one had checked me, so nobody knew I
Yeah,
was in the bathtub at 10 centimeters. And,
yeah, I love it.
and they came in, like, a whole bunch of them rushed in. They're like, you can't have the baby in here. You need to get out. And I was like, I can't. So, I
Yeah,
said,
that's hard when you're at that point. It's
you're
hard
coming
to,
every
yeah,
minute having a contraction. My husband was like, wow, they're coming really close together now. I'm like, yeah, I
yeah,
know.
because this baby's coming, y'all.
So anyway, in between,
So did he get you up out of the bathtub?
they like pushed him out of the bathroom. So there was like a midwife and a nurse that helped me up.
So they were getting wet, I'm sure, because I've been there, done that. I've gotten soaked helping someone out of the tub.
I don't really know, but and then someone like brought a towel over and like dried me off a little bit. And my husband
Yeah.
has my like hospital gown, like the one that I bought to wear at the hospital.
Yeah.
He's like, do you want this? And I was like, no.
Get away. Normally if I have time, I get a blanket out of the warmer and bring to mom to get her out of the tub, but they didn't have time for any of that fancy
No, I
stuff.
was like, I need to get to the bed like right now.
Yeah,
like,
no.
So
Yeah.
I didn't even care that I had water on me. I'm like, let's just get on the bed. So they were like drying me off as I was like hobbling over to the bed. And as soon as I got there, I got on my knees right away and rested my upper body like on the back of the bed.
That's my favorite position.
That's how I labored for the rest. Well, I say labored.
Minute.
I was at 11:30, and they said I pushed for 30 minutes, but it wasn't like actively like pushing. Like she was just kind of coming out on her own. Like on every contraction, she was just coming down a little bit more. And then I just felt like you asked how like what was different from the last time. I was terrified to push again because of what happened the first time, because I was in control and calm and felt great through all my contractions and laboring until I started pushing. But this time, I just kind of surrendered to it and I didn't push. I was like, I think my body knows what to do. So, and I could also
love that.
Feel like how big her head was. So I was like,
oh, poor little princess. Don't listen.
Let's just let this happen as it wants to happen.
Yeah.
So I labored down for a while, and all I had for pain management was this little like comb, like a laboring, like a.
Yeah, I love those.
And it was so funny because my husband's like, "Is that good? You're like leaving marks in your hand."
You're like, yes, it's
I was squeezing his hand on one side and squeezing the comb on the other side. And honestly, like I said, it was intense, but it was not unmanageable. And in between my contractions, I felt so just like relaxed and peaceful. I could have slept if I had more than like a minute.
I'm like tearing up. Like that's how birth should be.
No, it was beautiful. Like when they say like birth is beautiful, I didn't believe it at first. After my first birth, I was like, no.
Yeah, right.
It was hell. And I thought it was fine.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Like I literally had a smile on my face while I was pushing. Like first of all, I was happy she was finally coming.
That oxytocin was flowing.
So overdue. I was just like, I've had false labor for weeks now. Like I was just so happy she was finally coming. And like I said to you in our podcast, like I've never been so happy to be in pain.
Yeah. It's a good pain. It's not a suffering pain. I love it.
It was amazing. Like just it was beautiful. And like I said, I just kind of let my body push her out. And then finally, once her head was almost out, that's when I pushed. So I pushed like 3 times. Once I could feel she was almost there, I gave some good pushes to get her head out. And her hand was like right here. So
yeah. The same with the baby I delivered at home. I think I told you that.
Yes, exactly. That's how that story came up last time.
Yeah. I literally, if any midwives or doctors are listening, whatever, I had not been a labor nurse long at that point. I was scared shitless, but I literally put my hand in and went, pushed it back. I don't even know if I should have done that, but I was so scared with that fist. I could just see that fist coming out, and I was like, he's going to break his arm, and he was huge.
Yeah.
So okay, I want everybody to hear this because I showed you guys before. All right, let me see if my baby's arm, let me get my baby's arm up here. I just want to show the difference of what, my baby is stuck. My baby does not want to come back.
No.
Okay. All right, I'm breaking my baby. Oh, I know why. It's because the uterus is stuck. That's why. So what she's saying is her baby was coming out with this little hand up here like that, which means that adds to the diameter. So she's big head hand.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So
she came out. Did you have a bad tear? Did you have
no tearing? I didn't even have micro tears. Like after my first son, so he was 7 pounds. And I had what they call micro tears, where it's like you don't need any stitches.
We call them skid marks.
Right. So it's gonna burn a little.
Yeah.
But you don't need any stitches. That's what I had with him. He was bigger, over a pound bigger, and didn't have any shoulder dystocia.
Yeah.
And I had absolutely no tearing. And you know how everyone's terrified of that first pee after birth? Like,
yeah.
It didn't burn at all. I was like,
yeah, because that tearing is a mother, man. I don't care if it's a skid mark or a stitch. That urine burns.
It does. So the first time I remember it hurt so bad, but this time, I was like, did I have a baby?
And it's so amazing when you feel that way and that oxytocin's flowing and those endorphins and you're done and you can get up and move around and like you feel good. That's how birth should be.
Yeah. No, I felt amazing.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't even have a baby. Like it's crazy. Obviously, like my core felt weird.
Yeah.
After you have a baby, your belly goes from huge to like nothing. So there is like core rehab that I've been doing. Like as far as like physically, mentally, like I feel like it's night and day.
I love it.
And it definitely, like having a positive birth experience, it plays a role in your mental health postpartum, because I feel like I was so fixated on things I could have done differently to like have a better birth the first
The what ifs.
And, you know, because of his shoulder dystocia and the birth trauma he got from it, like my son, he had something wrong with his eye. He couldn't open his eye for like a month. And, you know, there's just things.
He had some nerve damage.
Right. And there was just things that made me feel like I had like failed, you know? So that definitely affected my mental health postpartum. But this time, because it was such a good birth experience and I was so calm and relaxed and peaceful and just like content with how my birth unfolded, I don't have any postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety like I did the first time. She's like a very chill baby. Other than her like fussing right now.
She's not fussing right now, please. That's nothing. My dog is doing as much as she is.
She just wants me to go put her in her bed. That's the problem. But yeah, so I even noticed a difference in the demeanor of my children because, you know, his birth was so much more traumatic for him because they had to like literally push and yank him out of me.
Yeah.
And for her, it was just like calm and peaceful. And even their demeanor as infants has been nice.
Isn't that amazing? And I'm sure there's studies and science behind that.
Oh, absolutely.
If you think about it, like that, it's the beginning, it's the start. And if that's how you enter the world where people are yelling and chaos and yanking on you and all of that, like that is really like, it's kind of heartbreaking for him.
Yeah.
And it's not you. This is why you guys, my classes are open for enrollment. I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. Comment class, use the code Birth Queen. You get $100 off. I know Bianca would tell you it is well worth it. And if you're on Bianca's channel and watching, I think you have a link because I do referrals for my students because that's the best. Like you guys saying, yes, take this class. It's so validating because you guys are going to know what I know as a labor nurse. I don't gatekeep anything. I'm not like, you know, us against them. I'm like, no, this is why I'm doing it because his birth should have not been like that. And they contributed to that, which there's all this fear mongering with shoulder dystocia. But hello, if we're so scared of it, let's let women push intuitively.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like maybe don't make women push on their back.
Yeah, it's just insane to me. Like the whole thing's insane. Okay, so I always ask, I want to ask you, how, when you came in, so you have been following me for a long time, but when you came into the classes, did you think that you were going to know all the things you knew, or were you surprised how much you didn't know?
I thought I was gonna know a lot. Like, oh, I've done this before, and I've been following Trish, so I should know all this. There's a lot that I learned, especially like just like alternatives. So
Yeah.
different ways to be induced, different options as far as fetal monitoring. Like I didn't know a lot of those things until I took the class.
Yeah. And that's what I want.
I didn't know that I could decline cervical exams.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that we don't realize that? I feel like my shirt is, do you see all the, it's like tripping here or something with the light on it. I don't know if it's just my screen that I see it, but it's like really throwing me for a loop between my wallpaper and my shirt is like doing something very, very weird looking. But anyway, I'm very easily distracted, obviously. But that's what, that is what is so maddening to me. And I remember one of the very first birth stories I did live on Instagram. It was with Raquel, and she said, Trish, you're like a smorgasbord. You lay it all out and we can pick and choose from what you let us know. And that is the thing. I know that there's a lot of birth educators out there. They're like, natural birth is the way. Do it this way. Don't do it that way. And I don't want that for you guys. I want to be like, hey, here are all the things. You're educated now. You're a grown ass woman. Choose what you want and we'll support you.
Yeah, you gave options for like if you need pain management during birth, like these are the different options. I love it.
Yeah. And that was my goal because I don't want to contribute to the coercion and the bullying.
Right. There's nothing wrong with needing a little bit of pain management.
Yeah.
You never know how your birth's going to unfold. But it's not natural or epidural. Like there's so many things in between.
Yeah.
So I love that you kind of like laid all that out as well. And I like that each video is kind of like broken down into like segments. So like
baby bites.
This is pain management. This is induction options. This is labor positions. I love that you kind of have it all broken down so it's not overwhelming. And I can like go back and rewatch the ones that I want to rewatch. Like
and that's how I try to even do the podcast and doing lives, because I know the pregnancy brain and having a toddler and all of that. You don't have time for a 2-hour pain management class.
Right.
I wanted to cut the fluff and give you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
That was my goal. And baby bites, little baby bites. I hate when I take like an online course and it's like on and on and on. And you're like, you could have taken all of that out of there.
Yeah. I don't need all the little backstories.
Yeah.
Also, on the site, you can actually speed up the video.
So, I did that on purpose.
Yeah. So you can watch the playback like a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Trying to get through it quicker. So.
Yeah. Well, I do that with everything. Any Audible, any podcast. And in fact, what's really funny is when I actually hear someone live after having listened to them, I'm like, they talk like this.
Like, can I speed this up in real life?
But it sounds so bizarre. So someone in particular, if you guys want a good laugh, listen to Mel Robbins on 2X and then listen to her normal. It's like she's talking like this. It's terrible. And I feel bad. I've ruined it now. I can't watch her live at all. I have to watch it fast. But okay, so what is your word for after taking the classes and experiencing the labor bat signal? Like, what is your one word you feel that you would describe the experience?
I guess just empowered. Empowered.
That's my most common word.
Encompasses it all.
Which is really funny. Oh no, I originally had the name of your birth story up here as empowered birth story, but I was like, damn, I use that word all the time. I need to say something else. So I said powerful birth story. But I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Tell everybody where they can find you on Instagram.
Yeah, so my Instagram is just Bianca Rose Cooper. And I share
Say it slower.
Sorry, I have ADHD as well. Um, Bianca Rose Cooper.
There you go. And I'll share it I'll share it when I share the live. I'll tag you. So I think I can collab. I don't know. Whatever I'll do something.
Okay. I can share.
And you can share your link for the classes as well. So if someone were to say to you, like, should I take the classes? I've already had a baby. Should I take the classes? I'm very newly pregnant. Should I take the classes? I'm due this weekend. What would you say?
Yes, 100%.
I love it. And what about the labor bat signal?
Yes. I recommend it just because it's like having it'll avoid you going to the hospital and getting
50 times. Yeah. Well, and it also avoids irritation at the doctor's office too.
Yeah. Because you like give us things that we can ask when we go to the doctors. And
yeah.
I just like that it was kind of like having my own little, like, you guys are like, nurses and doulas. So it's just like, you guys are a wealth of knowledge. I can ask you questions and I don't have to like call my doctor's office or email in.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I had another picture. Oh, maybe I don't. I may not have had it. I had another picture from your labor bat signal of afterwards when the baby got the cold. And we were walking you through that. So it's not just for birth. Your labor bat signal is also up to 8 weeks postpartum, you guys. So you get like, and we've got a postpartum doula and she'll hop in there and she's brilliant. Oh my gosh. So.
Yeah, it's really useful. I definitely think it's like 100% worth it.
Love it. Now Tula's like, I'm done sitting here. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. I am so appreciative and we love having you. And we're so grateful that you chose us because it's an honor. I know it's an honor. So have an amazing day, Bianca.
Thank you, Trish. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.